All right, so we're going to go over two key basketball plays that every team should have in their playbook. Now, these are two basic plays where, they are basic enough to teach our younger age groups, but they're also complicated enough and have enough options that you can teach them to older age groups as well. Right, the biggest thing that we want to preach here with these two offensive systems is continuous movement. Right, we're looking at continuous movement. There's systems that you can run with multiple options, but they also have the opportunity for quick and easy plays, quick and easy baskets from them as well. So, with these two offensive systems, you can use them as systems or you can use them as plays for quick and easy baskets. But the best part about it, like I said, is that they can be used for younger age groups as well as our older age groups. All of our players playing outside of the 3 point line. Pretty self explanatory here. We're playing five out. So five players outside of the three. Now, the whole goal with the five out offense is to have your teams basically continuously moving without the basketball. We don't want anybody with a five out offense standing still. And that's really the goal of it, right? Through either screening or cutting, eventually somebody is going to get open for the basketball. And that is the message that you want to portray to your teams when you teach a five out. So let's get into the specifics of what we're doing here with our five out. So again, I mentioned before, we want all of our players to either screen or cut, and that's going to be the option that we continue to preach. So let's say we can start with getting the ball one pass away. We can pass from number one to number three. How number three would get open, we'll talk about that in a minute, but let's just start off and say, hey, we can get the ball to number three. Our option then for number one is to either screen or cut, right? As soon as the ball is out of your hands, you need to screen or cut. Okay, so let's say number one cuts for the basketball. They're going to cut, hands up, right? A big thing to preach is making sure you're given a target, hands up for the basketball. Ideally, we can get the ball to number one there for a cut to the basket, maybe an easy layup. But let's just say that doesn't happen. Then we're going to fill, right, away from the basketball, and then everybody's going to move up and fill a spot. Two goes up to that original spot that number one was in. Four moves up a spot. One continues their cut to the 3 point line extended, and now we're reset back into a five out. Okay, as you've seen, when I had number two move up top to the 3 point line, they came in the key and popped out. That was their cut, right? So they just cut. They were not standing still. As they fill the spot, they cut for the basketball, which means chances are they're going to get open right here. So now we're reset again, right? We want our players to either screen or cut. Okay, before we go into what number four and number three will do, let's just say we can swing the ball over here to number four. Right, so just then on our first pass, we had the player at the top of the 3 point line cut. Now let's say they screen. So number two is going to come over here now and set a screen for number three rather than cut to look for a pass. So number two moves to set a screen for number three right here. Number three is coming off that screen, and now they're looking for the basketball, and we are reset into a five out. Now, when they come off that screen, if they see that there might be a lane here to the basket, they can take that lane as well and look for it. It all kind of depends on where they're at in the game and how to read and react. But that's the whole thing with the five out motion offense, is that you're going to get multiple different situations that could happen. Right, so now let's say the ball goes back up top to the 3 point line. What does number four do, and what does number two do after they make that pass back to reset the ball up top? Well, the same rules apply, right? We want number four, number two, these players up top, or whoever they are, whatever number they might be, to do the same thing, right? Either screen away or cut. So how can these two players screen? Let's go over those options. So we can set a down screen here, right, for number five to come up to the basketball, right, and receive it right here. Then we go into our five out motion offense. Okay, another thing that we can do is have this player cut toward the key for the basketball, right, with their hands up looking for the ball. Maybe they can get a layup right here, something easy like that. Maybe they can, continuously move, and then number five can get open that way, and then we're back into our five out motion offense. There's multiple different ways you can go about it. Same thing with number four, right? So the ball is right here. Number four, instead of standing still, they can cut and look for the basketball. Maybe that's an easy layup, or maybe number two's defender leaves number two, right? We dish the ball off to number two, whether that's in the dunker spot or at the 3 point line. Right, so there's multiple different ways we can go about it, but let's reset and go into it full speed again. So number 3 has the basketball. We don't want anybody standing still. So how are these guys going to get open? They have to screen or cut. So let's say they screen. All right, we have a down screen here. These two players come up. We get the ball moving. All right, we're going to look for the basketball on that cut. If we can get it to them, great. But if not, we continue to fill. Right, everybody's going to continue to fill, continue to fill, continue to fill. That ball resets, right? Okay, can we get open? Are we open right here? No. If not, let's cut to the basketball and look. Maybe we get an easy layup right here, right? So the 5-out offense, it continues to move. Everybody's filling a spot. Everybody's filling a spot. And through that continuous movement of everybody cutting or screening, eventually you are going to get an open layup or an open shot for one of your players. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is a Horns basketball offense. Now, there are many different ways to run a Horns basketball offense, but I'm going to show a way that's kind of easy for teams of all age groups. You can see younger teams do this because it has just kind of the basic movements involved with basketball, but you'll see older teams do this because it is complicated enough to that, it will get a player open, whether that's for a shot or, for an easy layup. So let's take a look at this specific Horns play. Now, a lot of Horns basketball plays will start with some sort of entry pass to the post, but we're not going to do that today. We're actually going to use our two kind of bigger players on these two spots on the elbow that you'll typically see in a Horns to set screens for other players. Okay, so what we're going to do is have number 4 set a good hard screen here for number 2. And number 2 is somebody that you're going to want to be a shooter, right? Number 2 is going to be ready to shoot the ball. So they're coming off that screen around the 3-point line to receive the basketball. If this is a younger team, maybe you can make it a little bit tighter and maybe a little bit closer to the elbow. But generally speaking, they're going to curl for an outside shot. So number 4 is going down to set that screen for number 2 for an outside shot right there. So that's our first option, right? We can have that easy option here to number 2 for a quick, 3-point shot if we have a good shooter there. In addition to that, number 5 is going to come set a ball screen here for number 1 with the basketball. And then that's going to be a pick and roll right here. Number 1 will have the basketball. Number 5 will roll to the rim, right? So we have a few options here right now. And that's the best part, in my opinion, about this Horns play is that you have your pick and roll happening right here with number 5 and number 1, right? So that's kind of your situation in the key. If we do get a double team here that goes to the basketball here for number 1, you're going to have a few options. You're going to have a kick out option here for number 3. Potentially, you're going to have number 5 rolling. So if their player leaves them, you could hit them with a pass. Right. Additionally, you're going to have a player out here that's potentially going to be open as well if they're still open at that point. But, they will be open at least in the beginning when we are reset. So there are multiple different options here. Right? We can hit this player in the beginning as well, like I said, for the jump shot. But you have a few different options here. You have kind of 2 shooters. You have the potential to swing the basketball here with number 4, and you have the potential to hit somebody on a pick and roll here between 1 and 5. And not to mention the fact that you also have the layup opportunity for number 1. So let's reset it again and look at it a little bit more into full speed. So we have our point guard right here with the basketball. We have our 2 kind of post players right here, our screeners right here in the kind of Horns classic spot on the elbow. And then we have 2 wing players here on the side of the floor. Now, again, how this starts, number 4 is going to come set a hard screen here for number 2. And number 2 is going to curl off that screen, hard to look for the basketball for an outside shot. As that's happening, number 5 is going to set a screen here for number 1. And we have a pick and roll situation right now between number 1 and number 5. Number 5 is going to roll to the basket, and number 1 is going to take it to the rim. Again, we have a few different options here right now, right? Number 1 can drive to the basket. They can look for number 5 for the pick and roll, right? If we get number 3, if their player leaves them and kind of comes in for a double team here, you also have a kick out option right there. And you also have a few kick out options, especially number 2, who just got open from that pin down screen. So a couple different options on this Horns play. Like I said, it is easy enough that we can run this with younger age groups, but there are enough options here that you can run this pretty consistently with older age groups as well.